Before we jump in and start analyzing the gameplay that was shown during The Last of Us during Sony's E3 2018 press conference, we got to go over the scene first, okay? So the scene takes place in Tommy's village, not Tommy's dam. If you're like me, I always thought that Tommy's dam was just part of his village, but Tommy's dam, where you visit in the original The Last of Us, and Tommy's actual village, where this scene takes place, are two completely different places. You see Tommy's village on horseback after you rescue Ellie after she's ran away during the fall chapter, and then you also see it again at the very end of the game. That's where you're coming to. So Tommy's dam and Tommy's village are in two different locations. Let's get that straight. The dam supplies power to the county, so that way Jackson County, and so that way the village has electricity. They get electricity from the dam, but they're two different places. I just wanted to point that out because it took me a long time to understand that. So The Last of Us Part 2, particularly in this gameplay footage that we see here, the part during the dance with Ellie and Dina talking, and we'll get into those characters later on here in the video, I promise, but the part with them dancing and having fun at this party is 4 years. It takes place 4 years after the original game's ending. But the part with the actual gameplay where it's dark out, which we'll talk about, and I'll let you know when that comes up, that takes place 5 years after the game's ending. So there's time jumps here. So the cinematic takes place 4 years after the game's ending, and the actual gameplay takes place 5 years after the game's ending. That's been confirmed by Neil Druckmann in an interview afterwards. God bless Neil Druckmann. He is a beautiful man. So the cinematic starts off with Ellie at Tommy's village 4 years after the main game ends, leaning up against a bar drinking. She's at this party. That's when we're introduced to our first new character, Dina. She's dancing around, having a great time. Ellie's then approached by our second new character, Jesse, and Jesse and Ellie are talking, and there's two things that they really go over that I want to bring up. So Jesse tells Ellie, your old man really laid into me today. Old man, probably, I'm almost 100% sure the old man is referencing Joel. 4 years later, he's still around, protective of Ellie. Ellie asks what happens, and Jesse mentions that he laid into him, telling him about where to go on his patrols, where not to go on his patrols, because Ellie is scheduled to go out, and he mentions how it's funny how involved her old man always gets when she's scheduled to go out. So Ellie's scheduled to go out on a patrol, and her old man, almost positive that that's Joel, gets very protective of her when she's scheduled to go out for these patrols. Now, the next thing I want to discuss between our two new characters, Jesse and Dina, is the relationship that they have. They have had an ongoing, off-going relationship. It sounds like Ellie gives Jesse shit about how they'll be back together in 2 weeks, and then Jesse asks her, oh, did she say anything about me? And Ellie's like, make it 1 week. And you can sense the hostility in Dina when she walks up and grabs Ellie to go dancing, and Jesse's there. She kind of just glances at him and says, Jesse, like, it's just, you can tell that he did something to really fucking make her mad, but she's being kind of petty about it. Real good. Like, you can just tell, like, by their body language that she's kind of hostile to him at this point, which is really cool. And then on the way back, he tells her, don't be out too late. We got to get up early for their patrol. So Jesse, Dina, and Ellie are all on the same patrol, so I'm sure that would be some good there'd be some drama going down on their patrol with Jesse being in charge of them, and she kind of gives them a salute, a little sassy-ass salute, a little sarcastic salute, and was like, yes, sir. And then she takes Ellie to go dancing. So once they start dancing, you can tell that there's obviously some romantic tension between the two, and Ellie tells Dina that all the men in the room are staring at Dina, and Dina says, well, how do you know they're not staring at you? And Ellie says, I'm just a girl. I'm no threat to them. And then Dina says, well, I think they should be terrified of you. And then Dina goes in for the kiss, and Ellie and them kiss, and it's like the first kiss in a video game I've ever seen that looks like actually realistic and doesn't make me cringe a little bit. Like, this kiss is very well done. I don't know how much time Naughty Dog spent making this kiss look right, but god damn, it is a good looking kiss. And I don't know why so many people online are upset about the reveal, this kiss, that Ellie is either gay, or she's either lesbian, or she's bi, or whatever. If you played the original The Last of Us, it was hinted at, and in The Last of Us Left Behind, it's straight up confirmed. This isn't the first time we've seen Ellie kiss a girl on screen. She kissed her friend Riley in The Last of Us Left Behind at that mall. So if you are a diehard Last of Us fan and you've actually played the DLC all the way through, you expected this. It wasn't a surprise to you at all. So it's just a video game at the end of the day, and it's cool. It just adds depth to her character. I don't really care much about the kiss. It's just, I saw it coming because I played the Left Behind DLC. There's this beautiful transition from this nice, well-lit, warm, romantic scene of the kiss to Ellie in this dark, wet forest all alone. You notice she's stabbing the guy repeatedly in the neck, and when she pulls out her pocket knife from his neck, a little squirt of blood comes out. It's nice little attention to detail that Naughty Dog always is amazing with. And you can just feel, just looking around this forest, how wet and gross it feels. It just feels wet. Now this is something that I definitely missed my first few times watching the trailer. On Ellie's right wrist is a bracelet, and if you actually look, it is the exact same bracelet that Dina is wearing in the opening cinematic to the gameplay. Now remember, the gameplay in the opening cinematic take place a year apart. Cinematic takes place a year before the gameplay actually does. So obviously, something happens to Dina where Ellie ends up obtaining her bracelet somehow. Not going to go into theories about what can happen because I'll save that for another video. But either some shit goes down or she just gives it to her. Whatever the case is, Ellie is wearing Dina's bracelet. Now as Ellie continues down in the woods here, you can just notice that a nice little another attention to detail is when she puts her switchblade back into her back pocket. If I zoom in and increase the whiteness in the photo so you can actually see it in the darkness, it actually sits in her back pocket, similar to how her weapon sits in the back of her pants. Her switchblade sits in her back pocket. Nice little attention to detail, Naughty Dog. As Ellie continues her way through the forest here, I want to briefly talk about the new AI that Naughty Dog wants to introduce to The Last of Us Part 2. You'll realize that NPCs, these people that are hunting Ellie here, they call each other by names, randomly generated names, or however that Naughty Dog did it, to really give the characters a feel and give them personality. If you hear someone call someone else by name, it just instantly humanizes them. It's very nice that Naughty Dog, it's incredible technology that Naughty Dog is utilizing. So everything that we've seen in the gameplay up until this point has pretty much all been stuff you've seen from the first game. You notice her hand when Ellie goes near cover, if she instantly puts her hands up. That's technology that we've seen in Uncharted 4, and I believe even in the original Last of Us foliage here. But this is a new mechanic you're about to see right here. The ability to go prone really adds that sense of verticality to the game. And here you see our enemies, the main antagonist of the game. The main antagonist of the game. Neil Druckmann confirmed their group to be called the Seraphites. And clearly the Seraphites have some sort of religious undertone in their group meaning. We'll discover more about that as the game continues. But real quick, I want to freeze it here and take a look at this man right here. He pulls out a pickaxe, so he's possibly a new human enemy type. In the original The Last of Us, there were only really humans, and there were humans with body armor. But this guy is huge, he's bulky, and we'll see more of him towards the end. But I just wanted to point out that there's new human enemy types here. This motherfucker looks like he'd be in the NBA. And what better way to show off the verticality of The Last of Us Part 2 than by in a fucking parking garage? I mean, Ellie just hops up in the parking garage here. She's got the high ground on those people that were below her now. She sees two enemies, two Seraphites directly in front of her. Now here we see part of, if you tap the D-pad in the game, the weapon selection wheel, you can see clearly she equipped her bow and arrow, and to the left of the bow and arrow icon, there's different arrow types. So I imagine it's similar to how you can switch out your main weapons in the original game. She could switch out her arrow types. You'll see later on what I mean by, because we see an example of a second different type of arrow. Directly to the right is her sidearm, which is her pistol. It looks like she has 8 shots in her pistol right now, and she's not doing too good on supplies. Above that we have 0 med kits. We have the med kit and we have the smoke bomb. And below that we have the bottle for distractions and dazing enemies, and then we have a Molotov cocktail. So we know that those weapons and those items are making a return to the game. Here Ellie is able to take out one Seraphite with her bow, while those two that were in that group there separated. She took one out. Notice she picks up that item there. That's going to be crucial later. Notice how when Ellie is almost spotted in the top there, you get that typical traditional stealth game little icon that shows you where the enemy at and how much they've detected you. Once again showing off the verticality of the game by her jumping down to a lower level, and then she immediately hops back up to another high level. She jumps down to avoid detection. She comes up to attack an enemy. Here she's going in to take him out with a stealth attack. Notice how once she's actually spotted, the stealth icon at the top turns red, indicating that they know her location. Here you can see a new melee mechanic of the game, the dodge. She just kind of dodges that in. I imagine it's going to be like probably circle to dodge, square to attack on the PlayStation 4 controller. Really going to change up the way that melee combat works in this game, and it makes sense. Joel was a more buffy character who could take hits and dish it out. He was a tank character. Ellie's more nimble. She's able to dodge attacks from her enemies and then strike back. Notice here how Ellie kills this enemy and then takes her hammer, kills her with her own hammer, and then picks it up, similar to how you could do with machetes and baseball bats in the original game. You can see in the bottom right on the HUD there, it has a damage meter to show you how many more hits you can deal with it. She kills that enemy with the hammer, and then she picks up the other enemy's machete. One thing I want to point out here is notice how much faster Ellie seems in this game than Joel in the original, and you're about to see how much quicker she can hop over obstacles than him. It really brings up that contrast of how they each are different people and they have different abilities than each other. You know, Joel, like you saw earlier, was more tanky and could take hits. Ellie has that dodge ability because she's not as strong as Joel. She can't sit there and take as many punches as Joel. She's got to dodge her enemies, and clearly she's faster than him and more nimble than him. You'll notice here Ellie kind of disappears into the grass. They know her general location, but they don't know exactly where she's at. Very similar to how Nathan Drake could hide in the tall grass in Uncharted 4. Once again, Naughty Dog's really showing off the verticality of this game. The ability to go prone adds in so many different new abilities. She can just hide under this truck here, for example. It really is going to change up the way people play the game. Just the simple ability to go prone. I would have no idea it could change up the gameplay as much as it clearly is changing up the gameplay in The Last of Us. Now, if you look at the subtitles on the bottom of the screen here, you can see what I was talking about earlier about the AI being able to call each other by name and stuff. You can see here Ethan is being told by this woman to double back. She calls him by his name, and she gives him orders, so clearly she's in charge, and really just shows off the competence of the AI. Now, if you look at the subtitles again, this is the first of several times that Ellie is referred to as a wolf in this demo. So whatever that means, we really have no context to that yet. So it could just be what they use to identify, what this group, the Seraphites, use to identify someone who's not in their group, someone who's attacking the group, or if Ellie joins some sort of militia group that call themselves wolves. You really never know. We won't know until we get more gameplay revealed or until the game comes out. But regardless, it's interesting to note that she's being identified as a wolf by the Seraphites. So this is kind of hard to make out, but if the Humvee that the Seraphite is actually checking under, that's cool thing that the AI does. It actually checks under cars for you. The AI takes into consideration the verticality of the game. The Humvee behind her actually says Fedra, so it is a Fedra Humvee, and if you don't know what Fedra is, in the world of The Last of Us, Fedra is what is left of the United States military. They control the Boston quarantine zone and other quarantine zones. So whether or not they have an impact on this game or not, or if that's just a Humvee that's there just for lore consistency, that Fedra was once in the place, because clearly it's been abandoned for a while, but it's just interesting to note. Now really quickly there, it's very easy to miss. You notice Ellie with her thumb cocking back the hammer of her pistol, which is a really cool, I think it could be a really cool gameplay mechanic, because obviously you have to cock back the hammer of your pistol before you can fire the weapon. But what if they could hear the sound of your pistol? Clearly the woman, the Seraphite in the video here, didn't hear the sound because it didn't stop her, it didn't make her do anything from looking under. She still looked under. But I think it'd be a cool gameplay implementation if they can hear the sound of you cocking your hammer, the hammer of your pistol. Just really cool little attention to detail again. Notice the very impressive lighting effects from when Ellie fires her weapon and the muzzle flash from the weapon lighting up the underbed of the truck. Notice here how the AI can pull Ellie out from under cars, which is really neat. Now, notice how Ellie was able to lay on her back and fire upwards. I don't know if that's going to be like something you can do from the prone position, if you can just roll over to your back and maybe crawl on your back or fire your weapon from on your back all the time, or if it only is in certain instances where AI pulls you out from under a car like you just saw. But similarly like how Battlefield 5 is doing, where you can lay on your back and shoot, I'm wondering if they will incorporate that into The Last of Us. Once the Seraphite shoots Ellie with the arrow, you can see on the HUD in the bottom right, there's that little arrow button, that little arrow symbol with the option to press R1. Just keep an eye on that because it does come up later. Notice how seamless it is as Ellie's running and she picks up the bottle and she throws it at the other Seraphite to throw her off guard. Here you can see the return of the human shield from the original game, and it really throws Ellie off how she was expecting them not to shoot because she was holding their friend hostage, but they just didn't give a fuck. They were so determined on killing Ellie, they just said fuck it, they just killed their friend. Notice this Seraphite off in the distance wields a shotgun, which is another gameplay change of the more open levels of The Last of Us Part 2. Instead of ditching in here, if Ellie would have had ammo left in her pistol, she could have killed that Seraphite from the distance, picked up his shotgun, acquired a new weapon, and continued moving. So here you see once Ellie breaks the enemy's line of sight and they don't know her position, she takes a second and she presses R1 and she pulls out the arrow from her shoulder. Now whether or not that causes damage over time to leave that arrow in, or if it like caps her health off at like 50% or something, it's pretty interesting. You see here Ellie has the ability to move through these smaller kind of cracks and in between objects in the environment that Joel himself wouldn't be able to fit through in the original game, but because of Ellie's smaller fatigue, she can fit through these small cracks, so it makes sense in the gameplay standard. So here we get our first look at the crafting menu in The Last of Us Part 2. So starting from the very top left, let's go over it all. It looks like we have scrap, which is what she probably uses to just create weapons. It's just stuff she'll pick up in the environment. To the right of that, it almost looks like a gasoline type thing, which I'm not sure what that will exactly be used for. Explosives is the next one to the right, which is what she picked up earlier, and she's now using to craft an explosive arrow. It looks like water almost, so maybe there's like a thirst mechanic. They're maybe doubling down on the survival aspect of the game. And then scissors, it looks like probably something she'll use to create shivs. Going down to the middle row now, all the way to the left, medkit. Obviously, she can craft a medkit. Molotov cocktail, returning from the original game. Smoke bomb, returning from the original game. She can now craft regular arrows, and then the one she's in the process of crafting now is an explosive arrow, which takes 15 scrap and 1 explosive to make. Below that, you see it looks like a silencer, so she can make a silencer for her pistol, which is something that was not in the original game, which is pretty exciting. And then also, it looks like a heavier melee weapon, so maybe it's like she can make like a one-hit melee weapon like there was in the original game. Here you see just how absolutely destructive that explosive arrow can be. Once again, seeing the dodge mechanic in action here as she gets into almost like a medieval sword fight with this man. You see he throws her through parts of the environment, destroying the environment. Dodges an arrow incoming. You can see she fits through the environment again. She gets the drop on this lady because she wasn't expecting her to sneak through that area. Picks up her arrows, takes one hit, but then is able to dodge the rest of them. And notice how many arrows it takes to bring down this bigger brute type enemy. It takes 3 arrows to the chest just to bring him down, when most enemies die with a single arrow. So I went ahead and added subtitles in here because my audio didn't capture right for this, so you can't hear game audio anyways. But also because even when you can hear the game audio, it's really hard to understand what he says. But he says, you know, this is sacrificed land. So obviously there's some sort of, it almost seems like a religious kind of, the Seraphites are sacrificing something on the land. Whatever it is, it's just a cool little kind of, we don't know what the Seraphites mean by that, but it's sacrificed land, so it's some sort of Seraphite land. We don't really know, honestly, at this point, but it's cool to hear him say that. It gives us kind of a look into the more religious aspect of the Seraphites. Ellie then proceeds to finish off this Seraphite with the machete to the face, where we get this really nice transition back into the cutscene, which is a year before with Dina, and it's after their kiss, and Dina says, I told you they should be terrified, and we get this really cute smile by Ellie. Like, I think this is the happiest we've ever seen Ellie. Like, this is the most genuine smile we've ever seen from Ellie in a game, and yeah, based on that gameplay, they have a reason to be fucking terrified of Ellie. Hey everybody, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I have put more time into this video than I have any other video on my channel, so thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate any support you drop on the video. Dropping a like if you enjoyed it, drop a dislike if you disliked it, leave me some constructive criticism in the comments below. Whatever you do, just let me know you watched the video, and if you enjoyed it, let me know you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know what I could have done better to make the video more entertaining for you. Really thank you guys so much for watching. If you noticed something in the gameplay that I personally missed, feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section below. Let's have a good discussion about The Last of Us Part 2. I'm very excited for this game. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy. If you enjoyed enough, consider subscribing. I've been doing live streams almost every day. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.